for our first one, we're going to multiply the first term. So we're going to multiply 3 times 2 is 6. Now remember that when you don't see an exponent, there's a 1. So both of these have a 1. So 3 times 2 is 6. When you add your x's, that would be x to the third. And then 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. When you add your x's, that would be x squared. And then 3 times 5 is 15. And there's no x's to add, so there'll just be an x. That's the only answer that you can give me. It has to look exactly like that to get full credit. Any questions about how I got that answer? All right, so for our second question, we have to distribute twice. Or 2 different terms, I should say. So for our first one, remember this has a 1. So I'm multiplying 2n times 5n squared. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then how many n's will I have? 3. Bring down your minus sign. 2n times 1 is 2n. And then for my second parentheses, I'm multiplying a negative 3. So negative 3 times n to the fourth would be negative 3 n to the fourth. And then negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6 n to the third. All right, like terms. Do we have any like terms? Yes, we do. Good. So both of these have n to the power of 3. So we can add those together. So that would be 16 n to the third minus 2n minus 3n to the fourth. Now, if it said write your answer in standard form, I would have to start with the highest exponent. So the best answer would be negative 3n to the fourth, then my positive 16n cubed, and then my negative 2n. This is the best answer. This is standard form. All right, go ahead, take out your note packet. And now we're going to multiply 2 binomials, which is where we will have to make a box. Oh, no, sorry, we're not there yet. We're going to solve some equations first. So go to page 7. And now let's solve some equations. So let me zoom in. So let's distribute a negative 2. And we're going to distribute a positive 3. So let's do that. So when I do that, that gives me negative 16p equals negative 2p, because negative 2 times p is negative 2p. Let me go ahead and write that in blue. So negative 2p, and then negative 2 times 3 is a negative 6. So now let's do the same thing with the 3. 3 times 6p is 18p. And 3 times negative 30 is negative 90. All right, so now let's collect our like terms. So when I'm looking at my like terms, I'm noticing that I have these two that can be added together. And we can also add together these two terms. All right, so negative 16p equals, so pick up your calculators and add negative 2 plus 18. So in your calculators, add negative 2 plus 18. Because they're like terms, we can add them together. And that should give you 16. And now let's go ahead and add our other two terms. So negative 6 and negative 90. Go ahead and add those together. So in your calculator, type in negative 6 plus negative 90. And that should give you negative 96. All right, so our next step is going to be to subtract the 16p. And keep in mind, you're adding these together. This is going to equal 0. So go ahead and put this in your calculator. So negative 32 equals negative 96. And then your last step would be to divide both sides by negative 32. So in your calculator, if you type in negative 96 divided by negative 32, you should get positive 3. And that would be your solution. All right, let's look at question B. Go ahead and start multiplying that negative 5t. So when we multiply the negative 5t times both, I get negative 10t squared plus 15t. So let's go back through that again. So I took negative 5t times 2t. So I multiplied my numbers and I added my exponents. Did you have a question?
Do you have answers for the picture?
Oh, I'll go back in a second. And then you have negative 5t times negative 3. So negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. So let's bring down our equal sign and distribute again. So 2t times negative 5t. So what do you think you get when you multiply that out? 2t times negative 5t. Negative 10 and what else? T squared. Good. And now you're going to take that that 2t and multiply it by 4. So 2t times 4 is 8. So now we're going to do the same thing with the 2. 2 times t is 2t. And 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. All right, so that's where we are. When I try to add the 10t squared to both sides, notice what happens with that. On both sides, it equals 0, so they both cancel out. Because they're opposite signs. So then that gives you 15t equals 8 plus 2t minus 8. So let's start collecting our like terms. So these two are like terms. And what's going to happen when I add those together? What is 8 minus 8? 8 minus 8 is 0. So you'll have 15t equals, and then it'll just be a 2t plus 0. And then what's going to happen? What would I do next? Subtract the 2t from both sides. Go ahead and subtract it. So 13t equals 0. Divide both sides by 13. And what happens when you take 0 divided by 13? You get 0. And that would be your answer. All right, any questions about how we work through that? These two. So now you can finish the front side of homework 2. So now we're going to start working on the back side. All right, so let's go ahead and go to page 7 still. And now we're multiplying, and we're going to multiply with the box method. So notice how I have 2 things in parentheses. We can use the distributive property, but we're going to focus on the box method. And that's where we take what's in each one of these parentheses and we write it on the outside of the box. So I'm going to take this x minus 2 and write that across the top. So x minus 2, put that on the top of the box. And then x plus 6, we're going to put down the side of the box. So now let's fill in the box. To fill in our box, we're multiplying what's on the outside. So in this square, we're going to write what we get when we multiply x times x. What is x times x? So remember, these both have an exponent of 1. So what am I doing with my exponents? When I take x times x, I'm going to do what with my exponents? Add them. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So that will give me an x squared. X times negative 2. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Negative 2x will go there. X times a positive 6. X times positive 6 is 6x. And what about this last box? What do you think is going to go in that last box? What do you multiply? When you multiply these 2 terms, what would go in this last box? Negative 12. Good. All right. So we got 4 boxes. Are any of these boxes like terms? Now, the reason why I like the box is because most of the time, your like terms are at a diagonal, which means these 2 squares, because they both have an x, they're like terms. We can add them together. So my final answer would be x squared. And then what do you get when you add these together? What is 6x minus 2x? 4x. And then the minus 12. And that is your final answer. That's the box method for multiplication. Any questions about how we got that answer? I need to see y'all faces, so I said let me move because we in the final quarter here. We got 2 more little quizzes and that's it. We got a couple of people right now with an F, so these last 2 tests are going to determine if you get your credit. So we need to lock in. All right, let's do some more practice. Let's go to page 8 and practice multiplying. We're going to do the box method for all of them. So make your box. It does not matter. So I'm going to put the x minus 1 across the top. And then the x plus 7 down the side. Go ahead and take a minute. Try to fill in all 4 squares. Fill in all 4 squares. Let me see what you all put inside the squares. Okay, I'll go back and look at that one then. a 17. So this is a positive 7, not a 17. That should be a plus 7. So when we fill in all 4 squares, we have x squared, then I have a negative 1x, a positive 7x, and a negative 7. And then these two are like terms, so we can add those together. So my final answer that I will be looking for on your quiz next week is x squared plus 7x minus 7. That is the right answer. All right, let's start. Let's do another one. Let's look at box B. We'll just do a couple more. Fill in all 4 squares. So I'm going to put my 3x minus 4 across the top. 4x minus 10 goes down the side. And then I'm going to go back and look at an equation, one of the previous equations that was brought to my attention that I might have dropped a variable. So we'll go back and look at that. So in this box, that should be an x squared, because x times x is x squared. So x times x is x squared, because you're adding the exponents together. See, a lot of people are dropping that x squared. In this first box, this is a 12x squared, not a 12x. If you put a 12x, I'm taking off a half point on the quiz. That's not right. It's an x squared because you're multiplying 2 x's. So your exponent changes. All right, so in this box, we would have a negative 16x. And then this has a negative 30x and a positive 40. Who had those 4 terms in their boxes? Those are the only 4 terms that go in the box. Anything else is close, but close is still wrong. So now we're going to look for like terms. Do we have like terms? We do, these two. So I have a 12x squared. And then when I add these 2 boxes together, negative 16 and negative 30 is negative 46x plus 40. So I still haven't quite seen enough of you all get the right answer, so we're going to keep going. Let's go to C. Make your box. 2a minus 12, 5a plus 3. Fill in all 4 squares. See if we can get all 4 terms right inside the box. That's not right. That's a negative 12 times 5. So when I fill in the first box, what did you put in this first box? I need to hear everybody. What did you put right here? 10a squared. Good. All right, moving here, what is the only thing that could go in this box and be right? Negative 60a. We have to watch our signs. And then here, 2a times 3 is what? Positive or negative? And then in our last box, what would go here? Okay. We do have some like terms right here. So then that's going to give us 10a squared and then negative 54a minus 36. Who had that for their answer? All right, go ahead and do the last one. Question D. I don't know why I make my boxes so big. I think it's because I want everybody to see, but you don't have to make them that big. All right, let's see how we did. Let me give you all another 60 seconds. Let's make sure, because this is our last question. Yeah, that's our last question. Then we're going to go back to a question. Okay, so we have 2p times 3p is 6p squared. And then what did you put in this box right here? Negative 18p. And then what went in this box? Positive 18p. And in my last box, negative or a positive 54? All right, so what's going to happen when we combine our like terms? See how we got, these are positive and the negative? Positive 18 plus negative 18 is 0. So they actually cancel out these two squares. They go away. So my final answer is 6p squared minus 54. All right, so now let's go back. Let's see here. Let's go back to this question here. All right, there is an error, so we need to actually go back and rework this question. So let's go back and rework this question. So we need to go back up to this step right here. So I made an error right here. What is 2t times 4? 8t. So I dropped the t, which makes a big difference. So let's go ahead and make that an 8t. So then we have 15t equals 8t plus 2t minus 8. So now what am I going to do? What would be the next step? So yeah, you just got to erase it out. Sorry, y'all got it. I got erasers if y'all need erasers. Making y'all use y'all erasers up. It's one thing I got a lot of. I don't have a lot of pencils, but I have a lot of erasers. Okay. So now what am I going to do? What's the right step? Combine your like terms. So 8t plus 2t would be 10t. Now we're going to subtract the 10t from both sides. So 5t equals 8. Divide both sides by 5. So t equals 8 over 5. Is that what you got? All right. Next time, please say something because this is my first class of the day. Oh, I made that a negative 8. That's a negative. That's a negative. That's a negative. Third time is a charm. So the answer is negative 8 over 5. So I want to cut out some homework questions. So can you all take out homework 2 real quick? And I'm getting ready to pass out homework 3. For homework 3, can I see your homework 2? Go ahead and cut for homework 2. You can go ahead and cut that word problem on the front so we don't have to do that number 14. And cut that out. And on the back, you can cut number 44. Okay. And now I'm going to pass out homework 3. And for homework 3, you can start on all the ones where you have to make a box.